What's up everyone, I'm CallumOnToast, and in today's video I'm going to be showcasing some battles in the Open Great League where I managed to go on an 18-game win streak, my joint highest of the season, with a familiar theme for the channel with Incinerate Double Dragon. Only I'm going to be using Pokemon that gain access to new moves this season, so I'm running Gourgeist in the lead, Hydreigon as the safe swap, and Shadow Hydreigon as the closer. Now on paper you'd probably say this is one of the most meta teams I've showcased on the channel in recent times, with both Gourgeist and Hydreigon being very strong and relatively common in this meta. But after the recent PvPoke update, neither of these Pokemon find themselves within the top 100 rankings for the Open Great League, which I think is quite surprising to me, and Shadow Hydreigon actually isn't that far off of both of them. Now this team will play slightly differently from the typical Incinerate Double Dragon teams that I showcase, because Gourgeist isn't a fire type, meaning the team will struggle a lot more against ice types and fairies, but at the same time, obviously there are a lot of water and ground type Pokemon in the meta that Gourgeist has a much better time into. Anyways, with that being said, let's just get into the question of the day. Which Pokemon do you think is way better than its PvPoke ranking would suggest? Let me know in the comment section down below, and with that being said, let's get into the battles now. Alright, so go into the first battle in Gourgeist into Celio. Bit of an awkward matchup for me, but of course I'm expecting Body Slam and Surf as the charge moves, in which case the opponent kind of has to swap out of that matchup eventually, and they swap into a Clodsire, so we're going to come in with the Hydreigon. Now I can tank any one charge move, the opponent goes for a Sludge Bomb, which is quite unfortunate for me because you can see a second Sludge Bomb will basically get the KO. So I'm going to go for a Dragon Energy, and whilst that does big damage, it puts them into an awkward range where I'm going to have to double shield if I want to fully Dragon Breath farm them down, and I also don't really want to waste any energy throwing at this range, so I will double shield. I'm committing to the full farm down, and we do come out with a ton of energy. Now they come back in with the Celio, we can go straight for Dragon Energy, grab a shield, and we're already at another Dragon Energy. This is going to connect, it does big damage. We now swap back into Gourgeist. Remember, they don't have any charge moves to throw into us, so the opponent is going to eventually swap out, but they swap into a Charger Bug. I'm going to go for Shadow Ball. I'm actually going to go for a slight undercharge, recognizing that I probably couldn't quite Incinerate farm them all the way down there, so I then fully stop attacking. We're now going to come in with the Shadow Hydreigon, but that Celio does have quite a lot of energy. They have not thrown a charge move yet, so I'm going to swap out after they throw one Powder Snow. I'm able to catch onto Hydreigon. Body Slam gets the KO, and now I'm just one away from a Brutal Swing. Brutal Swing, going to be taking out the Celio, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there into the next battle. We're going to see Wigglytuff in the lead. So this is definitely where we're going to see it for this team here. I'm actually going to stay in. I'm going to go straight for a Seed Bomb. It's not perfect timing, but what I don't really want to do is allow them to go for an Icy Wind before I can potentially throw my first charge move. At this point, the opponent is somehow going to throw on bad timing. I don't really know how that works. That should have been perfect timing on the opponent's end, but we sneak a full Incinerate in for free. So I guess I'm not going to complain about that. We can go for Seed Bomb, get the KO there. I am debuffed. I'm going to swap out straight away into my Hydreigon, and the opponent comes in with a Clodsire. So we've already seen this matchup here. I'm going to go straight for Dragon Energy once again. Dragon Energy is going to connect, and it also ends up being a CMP tie. They go for a Stone Edge this time around, which is fine with me. I'm now going to look to overfarm, and I'm going to throw a Vice Grip here, once again throwing as they get to the next charge move, and the opponent is now going to look to overfarm and throw just before we get to another Vice Grip. At this point, Stone Edge going to get the KO. I'm going to come in. Remember, Gourgeist does have a charge move loaded, but we're going to come in with the Hydreigon. Unfortunately, not able to Dragon Breath farm them all the way down, so I will use my final shield. They go for Stone Edge, but they swap into Chestnut, and do they remember Fly from this season? Fly, double super effective. It easily gets the one shot. We can just Dragon Breath farm down the Clodsire, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there into the next battle. We're going to see a Shadow Typhlosion in the lead. Of course, not a great matchup for the Gourgeist, and unfortunately, hard punished by a Wigglytuff. Even worse for me, I end up throwing on very poor timing, giving a full charm in for free. However, the opponent makes a huge mistake here. They end up throwing on CMP. I don't know if maybe they just expected to win CMP here. You can see my IVs on my Hydreigon aren't particularly great, so maybe that is an IV dependent thing. I don't really know. But either way, we're able to put them into range where we can just go for a full Incinerate farm down, and this is only going to be a Swift, not the Icy Wind. That's huge for me. We've now got a Shadow Ball locked and loaded. Shadow Ball, gonna grab a shield, and now I swap into my Shadow Hydreigon. So of course, I'm going to have to shield this. Everything is resisted, but I need to shield anyways. And that final Pokemon is going to be a Licky. Of course, a very bulky Pokemon, but Brutal Swing honestly does respectable damage there. I'm now going to shield this, and I am going to overfarm ever so slightly, but I don't want to throw as... well, I don't want to overfarm too much here, so instead, we're going to go for the Brutal Swing. They actually no shield. It gets the KO, and now the opponent gonna reach the charge move, but I'm able to swap and catch onto Gourgeist. The opponent goes for Thunder Punch. They fully undercharge it, but Shadow Hydreigon gets the Dragon Breath Snipe with one more fast move, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's opponent into the next battle. We're going to see a Shadow Talonflame in the lead. Once again, not a great matchup for me, but the opponent's going to come in with a Dragapult. That is really cool to see here. We are going to go for a Dragon Energy. Remember, a few seasons ago when I hit Legend in the Open Great League, I actually ran a Shadow Talonflame, Dragapult, and Shadow Giratina team. So maybe this is going to be that exact team. That would be very cool to see. Either way, we're able to flip that matchup, even though they debuffed me with a Breaking Swipe. We can go for Dragon Energy here, and we can actually still reach another Vice Grip before they fully incinerate farm me down. So Vice Grip is going to connect there, of course, wouldn't do as much damage as the Dragon Energy, but either way, we can come in with Shadow Hydreigon. I'm going to shield as they fire off the Flame Charge, and their final Pokemon is going to be a Pangoro, but either way, we've got access to Fly. Fly, of course, super effective. It gets the one shot. I can Dragon Breath, farm down the Shadow Talonflame, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's opponent into the next battle. We're going to see Komo-O in the lead. So, of course, not a great matchup for me. Going to be safe swapping into my Regidrago, and I can just barely outpace them to a Vice Grip. Of course, the opponent might recognize this is just going to be a bait, but they do end up shooting anyways. I'm going to call a bait here, and the opponent actually full sent the Clanging Scales. So, interesting play there, of course. Going to debuff themselves, meaning Hydreigon can come in, and the opponent is forced to swap out, but they swap into Greninja. Now, here, we can go straight for Fly, non-stab, but it gets the KO anyways. They're now going to come in with their final Pokemon, a Credilli, and I am just going to settle for the Brutal Swing. Brutal Swing is going to be shielded by the opponent. They use their final shield. I'm now going to use my first shield here. I'm going to look to overfarm massively in this matchup. I'm going to bank so much energy. I'm debuffed, so I know a Fly or a Brutal Swing won't get the KO from that range. So instead, I just swap out into Gourgeist. We're able to get a full Incinerate in as we swap out there, meaning I'm able to outpace. Seed Bomb gets the KO despite being debuffed and resisted. And at this point, it's game over. The opponent is just desperately trying to do anything they can here. They fire off the Rock Tomb. We've got so much energy on the Hydreigon. We go straight for Fly. Fly is going to get the KO there, so I guess the opponent just concedes the match. So, GG's opponent into the next battle. We're going to see Shadow Golduck in the lead. That is an interesting lead matchup to see here. Again, not throwing on perfect timing, but I just want to throw this before they can potentially go for like an Ice Beam or something. Either way, I'm going to no-shield this. I don't think this will be an Ice Beam, and it's just a cross-shot bait. That is huge for me. Quite a risky bait on the opponent's end, and obviously it doesn't work out for them. We're now going to come in with Regidrago, but they come in with a Dragon Tail and Body Slam to Dunsparce. That is really cool to see. I'm actually going to go for a Vice Grip here, realizing I'm going to need 2 charge moves to get the KO here. There's a few times where I've gone for Dragon Energy and it's led to a very awkward Dragon Breath farm down, whereas now I get the Dragon Breath farm down before they can Dragon Tail farm me down. Now I'm going to come back in with the Gourgeist, and the opponent able to make a very nice catch there, catching a Seed Bomb, but they catch it onto a Shadow Quillfish, where we can come in with Hydreigon, unfortunately just barely not able to Dragon Breath farm them all the way down before they reach an Ice Beam. Ice Beam would very easily one-shot me there, so of course I use a shield. They're going to come back in with the Shadow Golduck, and we are one away from back-to-back Brutal Swings, but the opponent, in throwing a charge move, it takes 1 turn. We get the Dragon Breath through, meaning we can CMP tie them, win CMP with the Brutal Swing. Brutal Swing takes out the Shadow Golduck, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's opponent into the next battle. We're going to see Doublade in the lead. So, this is going to be a neutral matchup for me. The opponent's going to safe swap into Licky, and I already know the team because I was actually just watching a Yonkers video before doing these battles. So, I know it's going to be a Zweilous in the back, or at least something similar to a Zweilous. He did actually recommend in that video that Guzzlord is just better than Zweilous, but he was just showcasing Zweilous because he felt like it. Either way, it's not really that important. We're going to go for Dragon Energy. We are going to grab a shield here, and honestly, I kind of just want to match shields in this matchup, or or get all shields down on the opponent's end. Don't really mind that because Hydreigon up a shield is going to be able to sweep this end game here. So the opponent is still going to be forced to throw. Unfortunately for them, they cannot commit to the full farm down, meaning Body Slam gets the KO. We can come in with the Shadow Hydreigon, and of course, I'm just going to shield the charge move. I don't think they will reach 2 more Body Slams, so the opponent's going to swap back into their dub blade, and I'm going straight for a brutal swing. This is super effective. It does huge damage. It doesn't quite get the KO there, but this is just going to be a Sacred Sword. Sacred Sword is going to be double resisted there by the Ghost typing. They're now going to come in with this wireless, and of course, they're going to completely wall the Gorgeist, but it doesn't really matter that much. Shadow Ball still does respectable damage here, and of course, Incinerates, they are also resisted, but still chunking away. The opponent cannot commit to a Dragon Breath farm down. They're going to be forced to full send a Dark Pulse here, meaning we can come in, Dragon Breath, farm down the rest of the Licky Licky, Dragon Breath, farm down this wireless, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's opponent into the next battle. We're going to see Gorgeist into Licky Tongue this time around. That is interesting to see, of course. Lick's going to hit for super effective damage, so I do swap out of that matchup. However, of course, both Body Slam and Power Whip, or even if they're running something like Hyper Beam or Wrap, all of those moves are resisted by the Gorgeist, so in the end game, when shields are down, it's honestly not going to be that bad of a matchup. But anyways, the opponent able to catch a Vice Grip there, which is not ideal for me because it doesn't look like I will reach another charge move anyways, in which case, of course, I would have much preferred to land a Dragon Energy. But nice catch on the opponent's end there. I'm actually going to shield the rock side because, like I mentioned, the Licky Tongue doesn't have any energy to throw into the Gorgeist. That isn't going to be resisted. So might as well just shield up a rock side there, as that would hit for neutral damage. That would actually put me into Lick farm down range, whereas now, unfortunately for the opponent, they're in a really awkward position where they can't really throw charge moves because it's just not going to do much damage. However, they do kind of need to throw anyways. The opponent goes for Body Slam, but that does not get the KO, meaning we can go for Seed Bomb here. Seed Bomb will get the knockout. Then I'm going to swap straight away into Hydreigon, and the opponent's going to have a Charger Bug in the back. Now, this could be slightly awkward for me, but the pacing of Hydreigon is incredible, so unless I throw on really bad timing here, I should be able to outpace to back-to-back brutal swings before they get to 2 X scissors, and of course, brutal swing number 2 should be getting the KO from this range, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's opponent into the next battle. We're going to see Corviknight in the lead. So, bit of an awkward matchup for the opponent here because, of course, sand attacks are going to hit for resisted damage. Yes, Air Cutter is super effective, but they're never going to be able to go for a full farm down here. So they go for the first Air Cutter. I'm now going to full send a Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball is going to be shielded, so I'm happy to now just match shields in this matchup here. The opponent going to go for another Air Cutter. Air Cutter, once again, not going to get a boost. This time, I actually just hold onto the energy completely, and I swap into Hydreigon. Now, of course, Corviknight did not throw a charge move. They're going to bank an Air Cutter before swapping out into Jellicent, but this is still a fine matchup for me. The opponent is going to go for a Surf Bait there. Not really sure why they felt the need to bait, but either way, we can go for Dragon Energy. Dragon Energy does big damage, and the opponent going to go for probably another Surf. Of course, again, Surf not going to do much damage. We come in with the Shadow Hydreigon, and unfortunately met with an Araquanid, but we've got access to Fly. Fly, get it for super effective damage. It does big damage, and the opponent committing to a full Bug Bite farm down. We actually reach a brutal swing on 1 HP and a Dream. They come back in with the Corviknight, but we've got the Shadow Ball already loaded. They cannot swap out just yet, so Shadow Ball gets the KO. The opponent just going to concede the match, and so able to take that game. So, GG's opponent is the next battle. Going to see a Magcargo in the lead. So, once again, not a great matchup for me. We'll be safe swapping into Hydreigon, and we can throw on CMP. Very risky for me there, as the opponent, obviously, if they wanted to, they could have just swapped out and caught a charge move, or they could have chosen not to throw and get a full Incinerate in. Either way, it works out for me in the end. So, I think this time around, I am just going to play it slightly safer and throw the Dragon Energy straight away. Dragon Energy is going to connect. Of course, I'm debuffed, but the opponent, in committing to a farm down there, they're forced to swap out. They're not getting the farm down, and they end up catching a Vice Grip, but then shielding it anyways, which is absolutely fine with me. Obviously, I would have reached a Dragon Energy there if I tried to commit to a full farm down, so I do understand the shield there, but either way, we're going to come in with our Hydreigon. We are going to overfarm. I'm going to go for Fly, as this will deal more damage than a Brutal Swing. Fly gets the KO there. Their final Pokemon is Unova Stunfisk, and this game is surely over. All I need to do, swap into Gorgeist, make sure the opponent doesn't get off 2 charge moves somehow with Macargo, which they shouldn't be able to do. They go for the debuff, but Incinerate still gets the KO. And now, of course, Gorgai's going to completely wall the energy from this Unova Stunfisk, so the opponent is just going to concede the match. So, GG's up in there into the next battle. We're going to see Gorgeist into Shadow Chestnut. So, when you see Shadow Chestnut or even regular Chestnut in the lead, you can pretty much guarantee it's going to be Shadow Drapion and Shadow Typhlosion in the back. That was a team created by No Bonfire Head, popularized by Jamie Finn, and then recently showcased on Homesize Henry's channel as well. It is absolutely everywhere, but it's also one of the only teams you will see with Chestnut on it, so it's quite easy to identify, in which case we come in with the Hydreigon. I'm hoping once again this is going to be another Chestnut that completely forgets about the moveset update with Fly on Hydreigon, but no, they do end up shielding there. Doesn't really matter too much. They get a very aggressive Vine Whip farm down, but of course they're going to come in with the Typhlosion. Now we're ahead on energy. I'm going straight for Shadow Ball, and they don't respect the damage. I don't understand that play at all, but either way, that's fine with me. The opponent goes for Frenzy Plant. That does respectable damage there. At this point, I'm actually happy to just no-shield this. The opponent will be getting the KO with the Frenzy Plant, but we can just come in with the Regidrago, shield once, and then commit to a full Dragon Breath farm down, and I will be able to take out the Shadow Chestnut, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there into the next battle. I see Gorgeist into Ninetales. So this is a really tricky matchup for me, of course. This is still where we want to see it, but they will actually just slightly outpace us to back-to-back charge moves here. So I'm going to shield the first one, and then I can't go for good timing, otherwise they will just reach a second Weather Ball. So instead, I'm going to go straight for Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball not going to be respected. That is huge for me, but then I make a pretty big mistake there. I swap out straight away. I've got an ABB style team, and because, of course, they had a Fairy in the lead, I didn't expect to see another Fairy in the back. So I swap out straight away, but they came in with Azumarill, which of course, not a great matchup for any Dragon-type Pokemon really, aside from maybe Narganadel and like Dragalge, but pretty much most dragons really going to struggle here. However, they just settled for an Ice Beam, meaning if they commit to a Bubble farm down, I'm probably going to reach yet another charge move. So the opponent forced to swap out. They come in with Meganium, and now we have a lifeline. Of course, they've still got 2 shields, but they don't farm up to an Earthquake. Hydreigon, very glassy, but Frenzy Plant is resisted, and I am just barely able to tank it, and I will reach back-to-back brutal swings. So the first one grabs the first shield here. The second one should be grabbing the final shield from the Meganium or just getting the KO. The opponent is going to shield. We get the full farm down there. Sorry, they get the full farm down. They come in with Azumarill. They have so much energy, but they can never store back-to-back. So I wait for one bubble. I swap into Regidrago. I'm able to catch the Ice Beam, meaning we can come in with the Gorgeist, get the Incinerate farm down, and we can just go straight for Shadow Ball into Meganium with like 2 or 3 HP remaining. And Shadow Ball, once it does eventually connect, will be taking out the Meganium, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there into the next battle. We're going to see another Ninetales in the lead, this time a Shadow variant, and the opponent's actually going to swap out into Jellicent, so this is fine with me. We can come in with Hydreigon, punish them here, go straight for a brutal swing. The opponent not going to shield, and the opponent actually just doesn't throw any energy, and you might be thinking, well, that's really good for me. No, that is awful for me, because now the opponent can shield once up against the Fly and get an absolutely huge Powder Snow farm down. I don't know if the opponent intended for this to happen, and that they just obviously were hoping that they could just get a huge farm down with the Ninetales, but it's going to work out beautifully for them, because unfortunately, they're just so loaded on energy. I still can't even go for one extra Incinerate, otherwise they will outpace me, so I have to go for Seed Bomb straight away. Not throwing on the best timing. My only hope here really is if we can tank a Weather Ball on our Regidrago. But we're not able to do so. They've already got back-to-back, and this Shadow, a lot of Ninetales, able to basically 1v3 the entire team there. And unfortunately, we do finally lose a game. So, GG's up on there into the next battle. We're going to see Altaria in the lead. So, this is going to be a matchup where we're going to swap out into our Regidrago straight away. I can take a Sky Attack here, not a problem for me, so I will just no-shield this. And now the opponent comes in with a Clodsire. So this one, I'm just going to go straight for a Dragon Energy. Dragon Energy going to deal respectable damage here, and we will just go for a second Dragon Energy. Dragon Energy not going to be shielded once again. They will be able to go for a Poison Sting farm down. However, I think I've put them into one Incinerate farm down range. So Stone Edge is going to connect, of course, and we were able to farm them down there with just a single fast move. We're now going to go for a Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball is going to be grabbing a shield from the opponent. Then I swap into Hydreigon and unfortunately met with a Medicham on counter. Not ideal, but we've got Fly. Fly does huge damage and actually allows a Dragon Breath farm down, but we just barely miss out on the brutal swing. But the opponent giving me another lifeline. They throw immediately, giving a full Incinerate in for free. Now here we can bait with a Seed Bomb because after just one more Incinerate, I should now be reaching a Shadow Ball and I'm able to get there before their Dragon Breath farm me down. We're only able to win this game because the opponent threw on awful timing up against the Goldgeist, and so I'm able to take that game. So, GG to there into the next battle. I see a Corviknight in the lead. So, an okay matchup for me here in the lead. The opponent is going to swap out, though, and catch a Shadow Ball onto Greninja. That is a crazy play on the opponent's end, and it works out perfectly for them. So, here, we're going to bank some energy. We're going to come in with the Shadow Hydreigon, catch a, well, not really catch, but, of course, force them to throw there. But, unfortunately, we're not able to Dragon Breath farm them down before they reach another charge boost. So I am forced to shield, and they come in with a Gastrodon as well. I throw straight away just because I know Corviknight did have some energy there, but because I throw straight away, they get the full Mud Slap farm down. Now they come back in with the Corviknight. I'm going to no-shield this, expecting Air Cutter, but they full set the payback. And I don't know what I'm doing, honestly. Like, we had such a good run here, and then suddenly, we are just playing like an absolute potato. Honestly, all I had to do is shield the charge move from Corviknight, and I probably could have won that game quite easily. Whereas now, unfortunately, I'm down 2 shields. I don't really know what I can do here. We're going to shield this as the opponent is now boosted with the Air Cutter. They get a second boost. I can throw another Vice Grip here, but the opponent actually doesn't even need to shield anymore. At this point, they can just no-shield that. Come in with the Gastrodon. I'm not going to reach 2 more charge boosts here. The opponent at the Body Slam. It doesn't KO, but 1 more Mud Slap gets the farm down. And I do end up losing that game, but very well played by the opponent there, and just honestly awfully played on my end. But GG's, and into the final battle of this video, leading into a Wigglytuff. So once again, this is definitely where I want to see it for this team here. And again, we're going to go for a Seed Bomb, not throwing on perfect timing, but just guaranteeing we can throw before they get to an Icy Wind. They go for the Icy Wind there, that's fine with me. We can now go for 1 Incinerate and fire a Seed Bomb, and Seed Bomb debuffed. Probably would have still got the KO there, but they actually end up shielding, and now we can get to a second Seed Bomb. Seed Bomb number 2 does get the KO this time around. They're going to have their own Goldgeist, and they've got Greninja in the back. So Regidrago looking very fine here, and especially Shadow Hydreigon going to completely wall everything remaining in this battle. Although walling is a term I'm going to use loosely, just because obviously it doesn't take damage particularly well. At this point, we can take a Seed Bomb here, so I do not need to shield this. I'm going to go for a Dragon Energy, and then I will be swapping into my Hydreigon, and unfortunately for the opponent, there's just nothing they can do here. So we're going to come in with the Hydreigon, and the opponent not going to bother throwing a charge move. They realize it's GG's, and so of course, Brutal Swing gets the KO, and I'm able to take that game. So that's going to be it for today's video. If you did enjoy it, please make sure you leave a like, leave a comment letting me know, and as well, don't forget to respond to the question of the day if you haven't done so already. And if you want to see more content like this in the future, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications. That way you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video. Now if you want to take your support to the next level, you can become a channel member with perks including early access to new videos, shoutouts at the end of each video, custom loyalty badges, and custom emojis to use in the comments of every video. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone that has become a channel member already. Your support is greatly appreciated. And with that being said, thank you so much for watching today's video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.